So welcome back. In today's video, we are going to look at a nice concept called object class. Remember when we are dealing with inheritance, what I told you that an object inherits attributes of its same object. Today we are going to see it. So let me say I'm having a class here up, class, a class called let me call it laptop. So inside the class, we can have string name, string name can be a string. Can have a price can be an integer, something like this. So let me create here down an instance of that object. Here down, I will say uh, laptop laptop is equal to new object, which is we create a new instance laptop. So something like this. So have you ever wondered if you try to output this object in the terminal, what is the output? So let us try to, without calling the values, let us try to output this object here. I'll say here, I'll say Java uh, dot Java compile and run. You see that we are able to get this string here. We are getting a laptop, we are getting the hash and these numbers. Oh, okay. Now let me try to insert and I see if I can get a different value here. Let me try to insert new values in this object. I'll say object dot name is equal to, let me say, this is Lenovo, and the price dot price is equal to, let me say, $1,000, something like this. So when I compile this, compile and run, oh, we are still getting the same object. Simply, why? Because I have consoled this object, which is an instance in this case, and I have tried to assign new values to this object. But after consoling the object itself, I'm getting a string format. I'm getting a laptop and this hash and weird numbers in this case. So what is happening behind? So what is happening, what Java does is that it automatically it applies a function called toString. It changes this instance to a string format. This is what happens. It comes and adds the toString format, meaning it is going to change this instance to the string format. So let us go inside this string format and we see, oh, here behind. I'll first try and compile to make you see this in real world. When I compile and run, I have added this toString. Into to our object. So when I run and compile, you see that we are getting the same what? The same value. Simply what Java does, it simply changes this object here into a string format. When you go inside here into the string format, you will see what Java does. It is getting our class and it is accessing the class name. So you can see that laptop, when you come back here, is our class name in this case. Let me go inside toString. Laptop is our class name. After getting the class name, inside it is accessing the attributes. What are the attributes into our class? We're having the name and the price inside. So what Java does is, after getting the class name, it gets what's inside the class name, which is the name. It adds this hash, using this hash behind, it adds this hash, then it accesses the final value, which is in this case the price here. It adds the price, but in this case what it does is that it changes it to hexa string, meaning it is going to auto generate, or it is going to hash this it is going to hash this string, meaning it is going to hash this string. Yeah, it is going to hash this string into a code. When you come here, how it does it, after getting it, it calls this hash method. Inside the hash method, you see that it uses an algorithm of hashing and gets a random number. So that's how we are able to access, we are able to see this weird number on our screen. What Java does is simply, even if you don't put this, Java will do it automatically. Now, behind the scenes, Java will add toString by default. So when I come here, even if I compile again, you see that it is still generating the same random number behind, simply because it is adding a toString to our object. So what if I come here and I say dot toString, and so what if I don't want to print out this in a string format? What will I do? So I'll come here inside my object or my object that I created. I will say public. Let me create a method here. The method I'm going to create is called toString. It's going to return a string format. So string to string, something like this. So what I want is to return, let me say return name, something like this. So when I compile and run, let's remove this. When I compile and run, you will see that I'm able to access the name of this object here. I'm able to access the name Lenovo of this object here that I created in this case, simply through using the toString method. So in able to access values in your object, what Java does is that you cannot access your object direct, the values inside your object direct, meaning you have to first create a method that will help you access these values. So automatically, if you're having the name and the price and you try to return the name in this case from your object, what will Java do? It will go into your object and it will look at the assigned value, it will return that one instead of returning a string or instead of returning this string format that we saw. So you can do the same thing even for the name. Yeah, say name. Can just say system.print out print out this one, even for the price, sorry, not the name, price. So price is an integer, something like this. So when I come, I'll say object dot price, something like this. So when I run and compile, you see that I'm able to access the name and the price simply through these methods. So what if I have two methods here in this case, or what if I have two objects? So I'll say laptop. Let me create another object. Laptop is equal to object2, which is equal to the new instance, new laptop is equal to object dot name, which is equal to HP. Then object dot price, which is equal to let me use 200 for now, something like this. So when I try to instead of printing out this object, let me try to print out this. So let me first and run. I'm getting null values simply because here in my laptop I'm getting 0, I'm getting a null value, and because I'm not using this object, so I'll come to file and run. That will be possible for me to access. But have you ever wondered if you use the same values in this case? Let me say you're using the Lenovo 200 and this 200. So are these the same? So let us try to prove this. Is object 1, let me say this is object 1, Object 1. Is object 1 the same with object 2? Let us see. Here I've used the same values, but let us try to compare and we see. I'll use boolean say result is object 1 equal to object 2. So here in this case, I'll print out the result. Are they equal? So let us try and see. Java compile and run. You see that Java is saying object 1 is not equal to object 2. Why? Remember what we discussed earlier, saying that what Java does, if you're trying to access a single object, it changes this object into a string format. So what we don't want is that Java is trying to compare two strings in this case, but we want Java to compare values, not strings. Hopefully I'm clear. I want Java to compare values of this object, not comparing the string format or not comparing the string it has auto-generated. So what I'll do is that I'll come here inside. I can first comment out this. I'll say what I want Java to do is that I want to compare values. I want to compare values, not the string format. So I'll come here, I'll create a new method, say public let me say public void compare the compare method, something like this. So inside here, what I'll do is that instead of this being void, let me turn a boolean because I want to compare is this true or false. So in this case, what I'll do is that I'll use this compare method down here. I'll say laptop. I already have the instance. It's got object 1, which is dot compare method. Compare method. Let me use like 2. Let me use like 2, the second method. So what I'll do is that I'll come here. In this case, I want to compare this object to this object using the values, not the string format that Java does. So what I'll do is that I will come here. Instead of using 2, let me use 1 in this case, because I want to compare this object to this object. So I will say pass object 2 into this method. So when I reach this side, remember the object that we are passing is from laptop. So I will say this method that I'm passing, I'm going to give it a name. In this case, let me give it the object outside, coming from outside, the object coming from outside. So what I will do is that here I will use an if statement. If, in this case, I use an if statement. If I will say this, I want to access this. Remember, this is our local. These two are our local variables inside our object. So inside this, I will say this dot name is it dot equals, is it equal to this object coming from outside, something like this. So if it is equal, is it equal to this, and this object dot name, we want to access the name from this object that is coming. I'm going to access the name from it, and I'm comparing this name to this object that is entering. So I will compare even the price. This dot price, this local one, is it equal dot equals, is it equal to the object coming from outside, object this is object dot price, something like this. So you are still getting issues. Cannot revoke equals int on the primitive type int. So here, what I'll do is that instead of putting this into an if statement, I'll just cut this, uh, and just return. I can just simply return it in this case. Yeah, I can do something like this, but I'm still getting issues. Simply because we are using an equals, but equals simply works on strings. So instead of using equals, I will compare using these two. Yeah, that will work. Simply that will automatically work. So let me explain this in a minute. So I'm passing this object into I'm using this instance for object 1, and inside it I'm accessing this method, but the method I'm passing this object to, this one that I've created. So when I come here inside my laptop, automatically after using this instance for object 1, we are able to access Lenovo and this $1,000 inside here being my local variables, but I want to compare this object and this object in this case. So what I'll do is that I created a method, and this method is expecting an object coming from outside this object 2 that I have passed into my method. So after getting it, I'm trying to return this statement after using these operators. This will return either true or false. The logical operators, it will return true or false. So in this case, I'm trying to compare this local variable and the name coming from outside this object that I have passed. So I will say this keyword simply means I already have a video explaining what does the this keyword simply does. The this keyword helps us to access local variables, instance variables. So after accessing the instance variables, I'm able to get the name which is Lenovo. I'm trying to access, or I'm trying to compare this name, which is the instance name, with this name that is coming in this case, something like this. So when I try, so what do I use to compare? I'll use the equals, but the equals only compares strings. The same thing that I used in this side. So this and it has to return both sides being true. Automatically, if one side is false, it will also return false. So in this case, I'm trying to compare the price, which is our instance, which is coming from our instance variable, or our local variable, with the price which is coming in into this object. So let me try to run this and we see. Run and compile. Oh, I'm not using this, so I'll say system.print out. I'll save this into boolean, which is the result. Go to result. So let me try to run and compile. Run and compile. I'm able to get the true simply because I'm now comparing values themselves. Let me try change this to 2 and compile again. I'm getting false simply because this is returning simply because this is not the same as this. That's why I'm returning false. But besides, when I use this, let me first clear out this. I'm going to return true because these values are the same as these ones in object 1. But when I try to change this, or I try to insert other values inside this object, I will run and compile. You see that it is returning false because now we are comparing the actual values, not the other string format, or not the other string that Java generates by default. So that's the object class, and that's the logic behind objects and how it deals with objects. So that's it for today. Thank you.